Believe it or not, this is take 2 of a Thursday edition of the Spotlight Omaha podcast, where me, your host, Jimmy Allen, takes you around the city of Omaha, introduces you to local business owners, influential figures, and people who are making an impact on our community. Today, we're brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. Pixel Fire Marketing is a locally owned company who specializes in website design, creating social media ads, and online advertising. If your business needs help with any of that, check out pixelfiremarketing.com today. Today, we're joined by Shae Degan from 88 Tactical. We've been having a really good 20-minute conversation that nobody has been listening to. All
right, well, thank you, Jimmy.
Take
care.
Yeah, the idiot that runs this show forgot to hit the go live button, but here we are. Shae, thank you for making time for us today. I appreciate
absolutely.
it, man.
Anytime. Thank you, buddy.
Let's again talk about your career. You've had an interesting life. You started off as in the Coast Guard, did a little bit of correction work, make your way up to sheriff. You jumped into stand-up comedy before you became a CEO. How did you who was your biggest inspiration to do that? How did you get into that line of work?
I don't even know if I had any inspiration of the fact that I just was kind of the black sheep of the family, and I was doing things that I probably shouldn't be doing. I had older brother, younger sister that were pretty straight-laced and did well in school. I always did poorly in school and was always trying to find probably the easy way out. And, throughout just being a kid, I was just always a jackass, always trying to make people laugh.
Like first steps admitting it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And I had a couple of friends that were doing stand-up comedy, and they go down to this place called Duffy's, a bar down in Lincoln. This is back, oh my God, late 80s.
Yeah.
Really dating myself. But got up on stage, did open mic night, and I just loved it. And then did it from there, and then got into the Funny Bone, auditioned for the Funny Bone, and then traveled probably for about 1.5 to 2 years doing stand-up comedy, and obviously was extremely successful.
I have to ask. Would you say you got the audition for the Funny Bone? Was there any part of you that at that moment was like, I made it? Because that kind of feels like for somebody that's not in the business, you're like, if I'm getting an audition at the Funny Bone, this is big time.
Well, and I kind of did things a little bit differently. So I was working at the Funny Bone. It used to be down off 114th and Dodge, Miracle Hills. So I was working there as a doorman, so doing security back in the day, and I was tiny, and I kind of got my feet wet and got to know some of the comedians with the idea of getting into stand-up comedy. So I really had an opportunity to ask a ton of questions and find out a lot about how it worked, and they would encourage me to go to the headquarters, which was down in St. Louis, and kind of gave me the proper contacts and the inroads. Went down, auditioned, then that basically unlocked the 18, 20 different Funny Bone locations.
Right.
I still had to book myself. I didn't have a manager, of course. I was a nobody. And I would call those different locations up and try and book myself. And then in between, I'd hit other spots as I was traveling. I'd hit other, what they called one-night stands at a Holiday Inn or some dive bar or whatever the case was. So,
biggest crowd you ever performed in front of?
450 plus people. Yeah, okay. It was intimidating. It was a Holiday Inn, and my name was up on a sign, and I thought, wow, man.
Were you amazed your check for the night wasn't $1 million?
Yeah. I think it was $125.
There you go. Okay.
Check, and it was.
Was that larger compared to some, or was that about the right?
That was
right wheelhouse.
That was about the right wheelhouse.
Okay.
And that seemed like a lot of money. Back then, it kind of was.
You're a member of family royalty in the Omaha area. Obviously, your cousin Jeff is a radio host. You ever have any interest in doing radio at all?
No, I used to call in and do prank phone calls for a show, and then he'd have me in occasionally. We'd do different characters and stuff, so we always jack around with that from 94, not 94.1, it was 101.9. The Edge is where he started, and then, of course, now the big partying Jeff Degan show, but yeah, he's a riot. He's a hell of a lot funnier than I am.
Let's talk about you as a business owner. Walk me through the process. Coast Guard.
Yeah.
Correctional officer. Sheriff's deputy. Stand-up comedian, CEO. What happened?
Insane.
What happened in life for you to go, okay, I need to get out of the law enforcement range of things and maybe start my own company and get out on my own?
I think it's been an eclectic mix of all of those things. I think that I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't do stand-up comedy. I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't join the Coast Guard. And I was just in reserves, but that was the bug that bit me that really got me interested in law enforcement. Because I knew that the comedy piece wasn't going to make ends meet.
$125 check wasn't going very far.
No, that's not going to work out so well. So I thought I've got to be smart about this. I'm going to have to find a career, and it really interested me after I went through the Coast Guard law enforcement and firefighting school to get in law enforcement. So when I came back to Omaha, went to UNO, studied criminal justice for a little while, never finished, and then got into security work, and it was working toward getting a job in law enforcement, and eventually got on with the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. After working for Douglas County Corrections for probably a year and a half, and then I served as a deputy with Douglas County for 10 years, road patrol deputy, worked at the courthouse for a little while. Then I worked in narcotics interdiction unit.
Oh,
was
wow.
a canine handler, so I worked the interstate I-80 strictly for years, and then worked for a smaller agency for many years up until about a year ago and left. So 23 years of law enforcement. But all that has helped me in the career, the point, where I am today in my life with the business.
When we realized we weren't recording, I asked you this question, and it was when we stopped. But when we look at where 88 is today and the plot of land it sits on physically in the Gretna area looked much different 8, 9, 10 years ago. Why was that spot the right place? And how did it all come about?
I was too stupid to do any kind of marketing studies, traffic studies. I kind of went off of just like gut instinct. We looked at other buildings that were along I-80 that were already in existence, that had moved out, and we looked at some of those spaces, but it just didn't scream to me that it was. I was looking for more of a destination location and something up on a hill, something that was highly visible to a large number of individuals. So it just seemed it was a perfect fit right in the corner of Highway 370 and I-80.
Have you been, I don't know if amazed is the right word, but surprised with the growth of the area just in the last decade?
Oh, yeah, completely. And at the time,
because it does feel like it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's blown up. I mean, you've got Facebook, you've got Google. I believe Google's over there. You've got Amazon.
Yeah.
And that whole area's blown up. It's pretty insane.
Walk me through the idea and the concept in the infancy of because obviously we know there's a gun range in there. You guys sell and train firearms.
Yeah.
What was the original thought of what you wanted it to be? And we'll get into what it is now in a minute.
And I stumbled into it. I mean, honestly, it was more of a, oftentimes I think people in business, you'll come up with whatever that idea is. And most of the time it seems as though that idea doesn't necessarily work out the way that you want it to.
Sure.
So along the way, as you're building whatever that idea is, you find other ways to enhance it and improve upon that. And it occasionally will lead you down a different path. And then that ends up becoming something that is successful. That wasn't what you originally had started out with,
right.
If that makes sense. So in other words,
that's most businesses.
That's most businesses. Yeah. But if you don't have, this is my opinion, if you don't have that agility and ability to morph and to change, and you're closed-minded and you stick with that original idea, then you're going to fail. You're going to fail. You have to be willing to kind of tweak things and be malleable.
Well, your guys' ability to evolve and adapt is kind of defining what that building is now. We start off with the gun range and the ability to buy firearms. You guys have got jiu-jitsu classes. You got a full 24/7 workout facility and a gym. Yeah. You guys are possibly adding a pool here sooner rather than
pickleball courts, amphitheater.
How did it get, like who were some of the outside voices, or maybe it was just internally that said, okay, we need to make it more than this? And is it just as simple as the demand was there, so we started changing it?
Yeah, it's listening. So I'll back up a little bit and just kind of give you an idea as to where 88 Tactical came from. I had founded a business back in 2003 called Signal 88 Security, and I can get in a little piece of the name.
I got a question for it.
88 comes from. Signal 88 Security. Signal 88 is Nebraska police code. In the state of Nebraska, Signal 88 means all is safe, all is secure.
Okay.
So when I started the security company, there was, there's a terrible stereotype connected with security guards.
Sure.
Right? Usually it's your toothless wonders and
Paul Blart.
Yeah, it looked like they've ironed their uniform with a hot rock. So I wanted to kind of change that stereotype.
Okay.
So I wanted to create a different faction, something that's not a cop. Too many security companies try to emulate police officers, and they shouldn't, right?
Agreed.
And then you've got security guards. So I wanted something in between, almost like a cadet type program.
Okay. So
I named the company Signal 88 Security because I knew that police officers in the state of Nebraska, the vast majority of your agencies use Signal 88 as code. So Omaha Police, Douglas County, Sarpy County, State Patrol, Waterloo, Wahoo, all these departments. There are a few that don't. I knew that cops then would know that this company was connected to a cop in some form or fashion with that name, right? So,
and does that help that relationship in
completely?
Your opinion?
It does. Okay. Yeah, because if your security officers are needing assistance from law enforcement, if they're affecting, they're detaining somebody and they need law enforcement, you want to be able to work well with law enforcement. You want to be accepted. And it's far too often law enforcement officers show up and it's some goofy security officer who's missing teeth. And it's, I wanted to create a reputation that was much greater.
How involved are you still with Signal 88, if at all?
I'm not. So started that in 2003. Then I started a franchise organization, brought a guy in who knew how to franchise, and he ended up franchising that. I was part of that company until 2015. And I sold that. I had started a software business as well that gave me, it was kind of the secret recipe, and it gave me the boost to beat the crud out of the multi-billion-dollar security industry.
Gotcha.
The big dogs, your Securitas, your G4S.
Let me ask, does that define that your venture into that company as a success in your mind?
What part?
Being able to sell it and walk away.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Because I think some people look at it maybe as like, okay, we got out of what we wanted, but maybe it wasn't a success. So that's what I wanted to ask.
No, I'm the kind of entrepreneur that, it isn't there's different types of entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
And mine, the route that I like to go is the branding portion is my favorite. Building something, being innovative is my favorite part because I am intimately involved in every aspect of the brand. All the marketing is something I'm intimately involved in. And then after a while, I kind of get bored.
Okay.
And then I'm willing to separate and sell. And I see that as a huge success. Excuse me.
We're catching up with Shae Degan of 88 Tactical here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. I want to mention it because you brought it up a minute ago. There was the connotation around 88 and the association with Hitler and all that and everything that you guys dealt with politically a few months ago. Whether it be Yelp reviews or something like this, like obviously business owners deal with negativity all the time. How did you guys handle that situation?
Oh, it pissed me off.
I'm sure it did.
It pissed me off. It really upset me because it couldn't be further from the truth. But they involved my kids at the time on social media to the point where they ran my kids out of social media. They were attacking my kids who were, late teens at that time. But it really angered me a great deal. And no matter what you say, it's not going to do any good.
Well, it's one of those things.
You come off as being defensive.
Somebody read it, so it's true now, right? It's
exactly. It all started because Donald Trump Jr. came to town.
Sure.
Came in, did a business roundtable at our place. I'm not going to say no. Super nice guy. Gave him a tour. I was in a newspaper, Omaha World Herald, Lincoln Star, I think.
Free publicity.
Picked it up, exactly. And it was a professor down in Lincoln that came after me and started calling me a Nazi because at 88, and what the listeners probably don't know, this is what they claim. 88, eighth letter of the alphabet, HH, Heil Hitler. That's their collection. And there are skinheads that use the number 88 as well. The state of Nebraska has used Signal 88 for many, many years, decades.
Well, it doesn't help you and I are both follically challenged also.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I get that claim too.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, my business partner, who owns 45% of the company, is a third-generation Holocaust survivor. He's Jewish.
Wow. Okay.
He's Jewish.
Yeah.
Right. So you can come at him with that, and it doesn't make a difference whatsoever.
I want to ask about that, and we'll pivot from that because that's kind of been beaten to death at this point. When the City Ventures is a big part of what you guys do as well, right? Can you talk about that partnership and how that all works?
Yeah, so it's Danny White and Chris Erickson both own City Ventures. Great guys. They've got an incredible portfolio of businesses. Danny is an absolute business genius. Amazing. Brought them on board back in late 2017, 2018, partnered up with those guys.
Okay.
So City Ventures is a partner of mine, and they helped us grow a tremendous amount. So Danny and Chris have both been wonderful in the business guidance, and they're just things that I don't proclaim to know, that I'm very open-minded about.
Sure.
And it's like a relay race. You got to be willing to pass that baton on to the next person.
If we're talking about 9 years ago, where 88 Tactical has grown to until this point, where do you want to see it 9 years from now?
I want to see it all over the country. We started a franchise enterprise. So we're going through the process right now of building the training manuals and building that. We've got a third-party company that I worked with when I had Signal 88 Security. We used a company called iFranchise, and they'll build that entire process. So when somebody buys a franchise, it's the Bible, right? It's a training manual, and they set up the entire program from cradle to grave. So within, next probably 60 to 90 days, we'll be rolling out franchises and then also corporate-owned locations throughout the United States. So we're looking at Miami, Tampa, Nashville, Scottsdale, a couple locations in Texas easily. So I see it spreading throughout the United States.
Any part we talked a little bit before the mic started rolling about the fear of business, right? Any part of that scare you a little bit to take what you created and hand it off to somebody? Is there anything as far as fears involved with that concern?
I mean, I'm not necessarily handing it off to anybody. I'm still very much a part of that. But yeah, there's.
Well, I mean, even that, I think that goes as far as hiring employees too. That's still kind of handing it off to somebody in some degree. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was probably the biggest challenge for me with Signal 88 when I started that business was stepping back and replacing yourself, right? And each phase as you grow, it's replacing yourself with a manager, and then stepping back and hiring somebody else and building that organizational structure is a challenge because it's your baby. You build this business and you get it exactly the way you want. So you're trying to keep that consistent as it continues to grow. We've got 220 employees, multiple managers, a huge facility, 60,000 square foot facility. There's a lot. We're 7-8 companies basically under one roof. We've got the gym, we've got the training, we've got the retail, we've got a restaurant and a bar.
I know who's the most excited about this, so it's probably his idea. But where did the idea for the speakeasy come from?
That came from Grant Gallo,
who
was our GM.
I was assuming it was Travis Payne.
No, it wasn't Travis. Travis Payne, I think, came in after but Travis has got some great ideas.
Yeah, sure. He was very excited about it.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
So when we're having that conversation, because obviously you guys build the restaurant out and it's beautiful. You've got the long bar, you've got the multiple seating facility, but you still have the old bar and the original connotation of where it was. How did that idea come about?
So we had that extra space, knowing the importance of event space, and understanding that, there just aren't a lot of places that rent out space for events. We wanted to utilize it for that. And then I don't know how we started chatting about it, and Grant said it'd be really cool if we had a speakeasy in there. And that was probably 2.5, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe even longer. We started kind of planning that out and then came up with the name, the Knock and Talk, and then how we were going to situate that with the memberships and who was going to have access and who wasn't going to have access. And it's an additional amenity that's, value add.
You mentioned that you want, can we call it a club? Is it fair to call it a club?
Sure.
At this point, I mean, when we talk about everything you guys have added to it, it's much more than just
you're talking about
the facility as a whole.
Oh, the entire facility.
Yeah. So when we talk about the club and getting people interested in becoming a member, what are some of the benefits of becoming a member if somebody's a multifamily?
Man, I mean, it's just there's something for everybody. We've got kids classes, and it doesn't always have to be firearms related.
Sure.
Right? We've got jiu-jitsu class, we've got self-defense, other self-defense course like an anti-bullying, anti-abduction course for kids. We've got women's self-defense. We've got cooking classes.
Oh, wow.
For children, how to make ice cream sundaes, how to use an air fryer for treats. That one's coming up here. So, everything that we roll out for events, for classes, and the amenities, it's with families in mind. Because if we can attract a family, we're getting a much larger segment of the community as opposed to, hey, we're just focusing on gun enthusiasts.
Sure.
People to shoot. We're more than a shooting range. We're not just a shooting range. It isn't about shooting. It isn't just about training. It isn't just about the gym. It's a culmination of all those things. It's created this community that there's something for everybody. When
you talk about firearms, it obviously sets up some sort of feeling in somebody, whether it be a positive or a negative emotion. If somebody is considering becoming more educated on firearms and firearm use, what's the first piece of advice you'd give to that person?
Take a class, take a training class, understand the fundamentals of firearm safety first. Also identify what the reasoning behind it is. Why do you want a gun? Do you want it for home defense? Do you want it because you want to carry concealed? Is it protect your family? Identify that first and come in. And it's a process. And we've got, people there, representatives that can take you through every single step. And it's a very, very comfortable experience.
What's some of the biggest hurdles you guys have faced or are facing right now, whether it be about firearms or just in general with the business?
It would be the lending environment is an absolute nightmare, and it has been for quite some time. And I'm not
like getting funding. You mean
getting funding? Yeah,
sure.
It hasn't. It isn't necessarily the environment. Even 5 years ago, you've got banks that you have people who sit on the committee who are adamantly opposed to firearms. So that, unfortunately, politics starts to play into that whole thing. So people who aren't is in tune with the Second Amendment, and they don't value what it is that you're doing.
What if those are the hurdles? What are some of the things that you're excited about and that are fun and upcoming?
Growth.
Okay.
It's the phase 3. I'm excited about the swimming pool, the amphitheater, the pickleball courts, growing the business here locally, which will, in essence, help us grow nationally too, because it becomes the model.
When you talk about Tampa and Texas and all these other places, obviously those are some of the warmer weather clients, and here we get everything, right? It's going to be 100 tomorrow. It's going to be negative 40 in about 6 months. So was there any hesitation at all to add a swimming pool, add pickleball courts, add outdoor activities, because they are so limited in use about 6 months out of the year?
Yeah, we added, we started talking about the pool here several years ago. And when we first talked about it, it was no, we don't want to do a pool because the climate here, it isn't conducive. It's, you definitely would do something like that in Scottsdale in a different marketplace with a warmer climate.
You can use 11 months out of the year.
Yeah, but the other thing was, there's seasonality to what we do. So usually your fall, winter months are the busy months, and then spring and summer are the slow months. So we notice a huge decrease in foot traffic coming through the front door.
So to attempt to get more people in those months.
Yeah, sure. But even with the members, and we've got probably close to 5,000. No, we're over 5,000 members. When you look at subscribers, we're well over subscribers in the controlled access card holders. We're well over 5,000 members. But people, kids are out of school. They're going to vacations. There's all sorts of things. People are doing more activities outdoors, so they're less inclined to come in, and that's something that we've known ever since we put the building up. But having a swimming pool, having the amphitheater gives another segment of the business an opportunity to see growth, right? And to see that foot traffic increase. Women are typically the decision makers. The relationship.
My wife tell you to say that?
Yeah, well, my ex-wife is the exact same thing. That's why I've got an ex-wife now, because I like to be the decision maker. But we'll get, more often than not, somebody comes in and they're like, I'd like to make a decision and buy a membership, but I gotta talk to my wife first, right? So if you have a plethora of activities and amenities that appeal to the other person, your significant other, it makes that decision that much easier. Right. So if you have a swimming pool and you've got kids, it's a great place to bring. It's like some of the country clubs around town.
For sure.
People belong to those because of the swimming pool, because of summer.
And we're catching up with Shae Degan of 88 Tactical here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. I want to talk about you for a second. We talk about entrepreneur, business owner, business partner. You're in a relationship. You're a father. How do you balance all that?
There's no other way.
Yeah.
I don't have a choice.
Sure.
I don't know. It's easy for me. I enjoy what I do. And I think that's what makes it easy. I have to separate out time for myself. So I'm keeping healthy, mentally, physically fit. My kids moved to Florida. My ex had moved down to Sarasota. So I visit every 6 weeks to 8 weeks, go and see my kids.
Is that difficult?
I make time. Yeah, it is tough. Yeah, I'm very close to my kids.
Sure.
Very, very close. I say kids are adults, 23 and 20 now. And
that I feel like that wouldn't make it easier, even though they're older.
No, it might a little bit, because they're just more autonomous and they're busy and they're doing their own thing. It's not like they're at home all the time, and so they've got friends and they're constantly going out.
See, I've got
it makes it tough.
I've got 3 under 3, and my wife and I were just having this discussion.
3 under 3?
Yeah, we're real smart.
For God's sake.
Yeah, she mentioned, she's like, well, what if they want to go to school out of state? And I said, well, of course we move with them. So
yeah,
obviously they're so little that you just can't imagine life without them at this point. But if somebody you've obviously had several successful ventures up until this point. If somebody's considering getting an entrepreneurship, what's some of the advice that you would give them about starting a business for the first time?
Well, make sure you got a pretty damn solid idea. And then this is going to sound really cliche and dorky, but it's once you set your sights on that goal, don't give up. It's just hammer through it and be as persistent as you possibly can. Right? It's not going to come overnight, and there's no such thing as an overnight success. And I think initially for me in my first business, I was waiting for that to happen. I was waiting for some, multi-million or billion-dollar security company to come in and buy me out, and that just never happened. So you have to be willing to continue to work extremely hard, and do it until you're successful. Literally.
I usually at this point ask what's next, but you've already kind of painted the picture about the franchising and stuff. If there's something that maybe it's outside of 88 that you haven't done. Is there any other business venture you'd like to tackle?
Dude, I'm done.
Yeah, that's it.
I think I'm done after 4 business. There's Signal 88 Security, Signal 88 Franchise Group, Lyconic is the software company, and then 88 Tactical, now 88 Tactical Franchise Group. I think I'm finished. I say that, but it's one of those things. If I was retired, sitting around, I'm constantly coming up with different ideas. I've got ideas for fun little businesses, but it doesn't involve a whole lot of employees. I think that has been the biggest challenge.
We're hitting that half-hour mark. We tend to cut it off at. Is there anything about 88 Tactical that we haven't touched on that you'd like people to know?
Yeah, I just it's a member-based business, but we are open to the general public. So the retail shop is obviously open. Takeout food, the food is phenomenal.
It's amazing. I had the the lobster lettuce wraps the other day.
Oh God, it's incredible. All the food is incredible.
Can I please get that on the menu permanently?
Yeah, I can. I'll do that for you.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Marty Miner is our head chef. And the guy is an absolute stud. Came from a Jams. He was the head chef there for many, many years. Okay. We're very blessed to have the kitchen crew that we have. And I would just say, come on over, check out the retail, and let us give you a tour of the facility. And maybe you can jump into a membership.
What's the biggest benefit of being a member?
Discounts.
Yeah.
Huge discounts. It's cost on firearms, ammo, merchandise, and apparel, and then upstairs, same with the meals.
What would have to happen in your life to get back up on stage?
Oh my God! You have to get me really drunk and threaten me. Yeah, it would take a lot.
I don't know how many people would be willing to do either of those things. Hey, buddy, I appreciate you doing this. I'm glad we kind of talk about everything openly, and really excited about the future over at 88 Tactical.
I appreciate you inviting me.
We'll be back tomorrow at 11 o'clock with Doug Nodgard, the president of Equitable Bank, here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, talking about financials in the city of Omaha, how the market is affecting the banking industry, and a whole lot more. We come back at 11 a.m. tomorrow here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing.